Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's review is another timeless children's series from the 1970s, one that certainly gives me a lot of memories, particularly where my grandparents used to live, because some of the hand-drawn pictures of the streets, and particularly the street where the main character lived, looked very much like their road, and as a result, I always used to ask if we could go and see the main character in his shop. The show I'm talking about is Mr. Ben, and the DVD is the complete collection. And I've got some facts about the series that some of you that remember Mr. Ben may not know, and obviously there's going to be quite a lot of you that don't know the show, but that's why we're here. So let's have a look at this wonderful series. So the idea behind Mr. Ben, very simple storytelling, hand-drawn animation, very basic obviously compared to the high-tech we have nowadays. Basically he's a very ordinary guy who lives an ordinary life, bowler hat, suit. He lives at 52 Festival Lane, or Road, I think it's Road, Festival Road. And every so often, when the fancy takes him, he goes to a very special shop. It's a fancy dress shop with all kinds of wonderful costumes. Everything from spacemen, cowboys, cavemen, you name it. So he goes in, looks round at all the various costumes, and the famous catchphrase clicks in. As if by magic, the shopkeeper appeared, and he literally did appear out of thin air. He was a very helpful little man, very strange. He wore a fez. You never really got to learn much about him, but he would always recommend a costume to Mr. Ben, who would then go into the changing room to try it on. Once he tried it on, he would go through another door to his left, and as soon as he went through it, he suddenly found himself in another world having an adventure, and the adventure always related to the costume. So if he was wearing an astronaut's costume, he'd find himself in outer space. If he wore a cowboy outfit, find himself horse riding. You get the general idea. Now, it was made by David McKee and Ian Lawless. They produced 13 original episodes for the BBC in the 1970s. After the original run, the show was repeated twice a year for 21 years. That's why those of us that grew up with it thought there were so many episodes. There weren't, there were only 14. Well, I say 14 because there was an extra one made in 2014. It was called Gladiator. It was based on one of David McKee's original books, because all the Mr. Ben stories were based on several books. And it was called Gladiator, and just like all the previous adventures, it was narrated by Ray Brooks, who some of you might also remember from the series Big Deal. He had a very charming narration, and each of the cartoons, each of the episodes, have a very gentle way about them. There's nothing that little children will be scared of or frightened by, and there was always a very gentle moral within each story. There'd always be a way that Mr. Ben would be helping people, all avoiding some small problem. There were 15 minutes each, and as I said, there was 14 made. after the special one was produced in 2014. Unfortunately, most of the original artwork, the beautiful hand drawings, were are no longer accessible because McGee said in an interview that most of the hand drawings ended up being thrown in a litter bin. Such a waste, but we can obviously still enjoy the series on DVD. There was also merchandise produced. There were beanies and T-shirts made, and because the series became quite a cult, you'd quite often see fans, particularly older fans and grown-ups especially, going around saying, with wearing T-shirts saying, "As if by magic the shopkeeper appeared." Now, you may not know that there was also, in 2009, plans for a feature film of Mr. Benn, with Mr. Benn being played by John Hannah and Ben Kingsley as the shopkeeper. Unfortunately, a few years later, that got cancelled, and as of now in 2017, the idea is still dormant. Unfortunately, I'd like to see that. I think that'd be quite cool to have a live action version. But McKee said himself that he thinks that it would fit a film. Mr. Benn is quite a big boy, so he could quite easily fit his adventures around the film medium. I think it would work as well. And he was also quoted as saying that he believed that Mr. Benn would have the first name of William. The 52 Festival Road, where Mr. Benn lived, was based on Festings Road, where David lived himself. I believe it was in Putney in London, and he lived at 54 Festings Road, and he had a plaque with his name erected in the street in his honour, which is quite a nice little touch. Now, once Mr. Benn had had his adventure in his costume in whichever world he went in, the shopkeeper would again appear and escort him back into the changing room, where he would suddenly magically reappear in his normal clothes, his suit, his bowler hat. And he would always be given a little souvenir of his adventure, and you'd often see in the streets as Mr. Benn was going home, children playing, things of that nature, and there'd quite often be a little connection in those scenes to the adventure that Mr. Benn had just had, which was always a nice little touch. At the end of each story, you don't get any extras on the DVD. You just get the 14 episodes. That's the 13 original and the extra one that was made in 2014. Absolutely wonderful, wonderful show. Brought a lot of memories back for me, especially, as I said at the beginning, the hand drawings reminded me of my grandparents' streets, and that's why the pull of believing that the costume shop was nearby was so great. Wonderful DVD. Can't recommend it enough. So that's Mr. Benn, the complete collection. Fairly short review today, I know, but I hope through listening to my memories about the show and seeing the pictures of the DVD and some of the drawings, it will encourage you to go out and buy it. It's not too expensive at all, and it's certainly worth it, and it's very different, obviously, from a lot of the children's shows of today, as are a lot of the ones that we've featured already on this channel and will continue to feature, because the old adage, they don't make them like that anymore, certainly rings true, especially of shows like this. So I hope you have enjoyed today's review of Mr. Ben, the complete series. On Sunday, we're going to be starting our Robin Williams season, and the first DVD of his that we're going to look at is Mrs. Doubtfire. So you'll look forward to that on Sunday. Have a great weekend until we see you then. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.